So what we wanted to do is live stream this video, but YouTube says differently. We are just a few days out from the launch of Microsoft's Flight Simulator 2024, and I could not be more excited. I have been a HEMS pilot for a very long time. I keep all of my settings as realistic as I possibly can. Welcome aboard. The sky is not the limit, and HEMS missions are the way we're going to go. Now, I'm not really big on getting those gigantic FPS settings out there. My goal is usually like a 30 frames or more. When you think about it, movies that we watch in the theater are shot at generally 24 frames per second, so I'm okay with an average of 30, which is where I sit right now in 2020. Let's do this. Bang. Let's go to 2024. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and do some Chicago live weather action here. And I'm going to go real time. We're in the middle of the night right now in Chicago, but we're going to set this up and see what's around, because the Chicago area, it doesn't have a lot of HEMS missions capabilities, but one thing is for sure. There are a lot of hospitals that have helipads within the Chicago region. So what I think we're going to do here is just fly one or two quick missions around the Chicago area and see kind of what happens, where it goes, what it looks like, what the difference is. And of course, I think it's going to be pretty dynamic to fly around a neighborhood like this at night, because the Chicago skyline right now should be visible. I should see some buildings in the distance. I don't. I get it. Some things need to buffer in, but if I can see the outlines of the buildings, I would kind of like to be able to see what they look like lit, since it is nighttime. All right. You see what I'm saying? There's no skyline there to show you that we're in Chicago. Now, what I'm going to do is just fire up a general HEMS mission. I'm going to go with a nearby roadway accident, and I'm going to make it somewhere simple, somewhere close. I don't want to go backwards. I only want to go forward, so we'll try like 5 to 10 kilometers away, and hopefully we'll get a trajectory out in front of us instead of somewhere behind us. And again, yep, it's gone behind us, so we can change the mission set, and hopefully it winds up going in the opposite direction this time, but we'll see. Nope, still seems to be going behind us. Let's change it again. See, and this is one thing that I kind of like about this 2020 version of this is you kind of can pick and choose what you want to do with your missions in real time. Now, I'm going to accept that one, even though what it looks like here is it's actually slightly behind us. I'm going to go ahead and accept it anyway. We don't have that much time to jerk around. Let's see what we can do. I do think, however, that the stream itself needs a little bit of music. There's something about just having something to fly along to. Just like when you're working in the garage, doing a woodworking project or whatever it may be, if you're painting the house, it's nice to have that soundtrack of our lives running in the background. And let's see what we can do here. I do like the moon off of the water. You can see that out the lower left-hand side of the screen there, that you can see the moon kind of reflecting off of the water, moon being way up there. But when you're inside of it, you can see it kind of reflecting off of the water, only in one corner. I agree. You know what? Reggae is the answer. Rent Kid, you did it right. I like what you're doing there. Keep doing what you're doing. Looks like we're still pretty good distance away from our Tango. About a little bit over a mile. Started to get some oscillation from the speed there. Let's bring that collective back just a little bit and compensate with our collective. And cyclic at the same time to bring that just a little bit more steady. Now I can see the emergency vehicle's lights right there, so let's go ahead and throw a spotlight on. We're going to do the high intensity searchlight, dim that. We're going to widen it out, and we're just going to kind of leave that right now while we just sort of make an orbit over what seems to be an accident scene here on Chicago's lakefront. I think what we're going to do is, since we're expecting this to be a motor vehicle accident involving a child, they are expecting us to bring this down to the skyscraper of Ann and Laurie H. Children's Hospital, downtown Chicago, after we pick these accident victims up. Looks pretty safe to say that we have a good spot to land here. There are some trees off to the right-hand side of the road, just a little bit, but I'm going to see if I can land short of those. But pretty much mainly in the right-hand lane here, just before these trees. Now the searchlight, in my opinion, is extremely bright. So let's go ahead and kick that down and put just a landing light on. There we go. It's a little easier to look at. And just nicely settle this aircraft onto the lane. Right about here. There we go. And we're down. We're going to idle down those engines. Everything is so flat. You know what I mean? I get it. The streets are flat. I mean, I do have street lights, but not a lot of obstacles to really land in this area. Only one street light to speak of. Of course, I am landing in a road which in all intents and purposes should be flat, but we'll see what this looks like in 2024 compared to 2020. Right now, I'm actually quite impressed with it. And I think we have some really, really good things to look forward to. It does take a while for these mechs to get things together, but while they do, we can at least spool that engine back up, get this thing off idle, so we don't smoke him out when he comes around the backside to load the patient in. And I think what we're going to do, again, is we've been dispatched to the Children's Hospital. Here comes our patient right now, getting loaded into the back of the aircraft. Glitchy. You see the people just kind of appear, reappear. There's not a lot of flow in the movement of the individuals that are taking place. Like all of a sudden you'll see this guy just randomly pop into the airplane, and it just doesn't look great. Looking forward to see what they can do with this in 2024. Because right now, I mean, even though it's fun, it's great. You know, I'm down here in an accident scene on the beach of Chicago. You know, in a helicopter picking them up, and I'm gonna fly them on top of a skyscraper right here. The Anne and Robert H. Lurie Children's Hospital will accept that dispatch. Get our engines spooled back up over idle and ready for flight. And we're going to bring this map to something like a 1.5 nautical mile range. We'll sit back in our chair a little bit. I've got only the landing light on, no spotlight. And we're ready for flight. There we go. We'll get that slight dip off to the right side. Turn that landing light off. And we'll enjoy just a nice cruise up the beach. Once again, you can see that frame rate holding at a steady 30 frames per second. My GPU, which is a 2080 Ti, running at approximately 49-50% at all times. CPU, 14%, you know, that's almost nothing. So, I mean, I've got a lot of overhead for both of these pieces of equipment to be running 2024. It's smooth. I'm streaming at the same time that I'm doing this. You know, things are running as I would hope. It's not hard to look at. 30 frames per second is more than most movies are shot in, and it looks great. If I gain a little bit more altitude here, we can see what this city really looks like at night. But again, one thing I want to see cleaned up in 2024 versus 2020 is just how far out we can see these buildings being generated. So it may not be coming across well in the stream, but I can see the silhouettes of the Chicago skyline just in front of me. In between those aircraft, there is a skyline of the city, but you can't see any of the buildings, when I know for a fact that if I was in the air right now in this exact position, I would be able to see the skylights of Chicago. You can even see the suburbs of Chicago lit up to the west and even north of the city, but you can't see the buildings themselves. That's a problem I really do have a little bit of a concern with 24, is just how long is it going to take to cache these areas? How well are they going to be generated? Because all of a sudden, you know, right now we're going to start seeing these things pop on individually. Sorry, I'm starting to overspeed my aircraft here, doing too many things at once. I need to pay attention to my instrumentation here a little bit. Let's calm that thing down. But yeah, you know, I can see Meigs Field, the airport is there, but again, there should be the Sears, the Hancock, even like Trump Tower, the Water Tower Place, all of it should be there. This entire skyline should be visible. I should see more than just the Shedd Aquarium's light. All of those buildings should not just be in silhouette right now. The entire city of Chicago is just in silhouette, and you get these little areas of light, which doesn't make sense because they're at the same distance, right? You can generate the lights of lesser buildings prior. Let's see. I mean, we're getting pretty close, and they haven't even turned the lights on yet. I'm going to kind of sideswipe this so we can watch this skyline my entire trip in here. And again, I'm trying to overspeed this. Sorry for the oscillation in that view. But yeah, see, now all of a sudden the lights start popping on. There we go. We can see the Prudential building a little bit there, that triangular building off my nose. Getting a little bit more of... okay, but now I have the Hancock, but not the Sears. The Sears is still directly off my left. It's even closer than the Hancock. But the Sears lights aren't on yet. I can see Buckingham Fountain down below. Now we're starting to get a lot more clarity. Bang, and all of a sudden, all of the lights in the city are on. See, now, why can't we generate something further off in the distance when we're coming in on that horizon? These buildings don't look like silhouettes. They are constantly there emitting light in reality, yet in sim, it's like someone has to turn on a switch when you get just close enough, unless you're in a lower population area, like, you know, those western suburbs of Chicago were lit up as we approached the downtown area. This is one of my favorite hospitals to land at here in Chicago, just because it is on a rooftop in the Loop, is what they call it. The Loop is an area of downtown Chicago that is basically the heart and soul of the city of Chicago. I mean, it's just a fantastic view. I've got my landing lights on already, coming a little bit sidestepped. I can see that I'm actually dealing with almost a little bit of a tailwind. It's coming off at about my 90 degrees at this point. So I'm going to keep working my way around this so I can actually land with my nose into the wind. And I'm just going to probably be quiet here for a second while I focus a little bit harder on this landing. There we go. A little bit shaky towards the end there, but I think we're coming down smooth enough to call that a successful landing. Not too far off from our H. There we go. And again, as the door opens, can't even see it. I mean, I get it that there's not a lot of lighting up here, but I tell you what, in real life, when you're bringing a helicopter in, you're not only going to be able to see the windsock, which, where is it? I don't see a windsock. I know there is one. I know there's a windsock here. Where's the windsock? And again, notice, I haven't dropped below 30 FPS. I'm in the heart of Chicago. Windsock or not, I'm still getting really decent frame rates when you think about cinematic frame rates of 24. I'm still on par. Oh, did we smoke him out? Nope. He got in there just in time. Spooling that turbine engine 1 and 2 up to full speed as we get him around. I'm going to open up our iPad here, wait for him to come around the aircraft, and he's going to go from wait to, there we go, cabin secure. Submit the report, and we're good to go. So what I think we're going to do now is actually go a little bit further out. Let's take a mission, but let's do something in a golf course, and let's go as far out as we possibly can. Let's take a little bit of a flight. So I'm going to choose the option that says from 10 to 70 kilometers away, and we're going to see what our result is. Now, right here, I can only see 8 kilometers away. In that center display, at the very top, if I come into this over here, let's come in a little closer. All right, to destination at 165 degrees, 8 nautical miles. I don't want that one. I'm going to change the location again. See, I have that option. I want to choose something a little bit further away. So now here I've got one that says it's at the Ridgemore Country Club, 9 nautical miles away. That's the one I want. There we go. 9 nautical miles away. It looks like to the west-northwest a little bit. And we're also going to just follow the airplane on this one. And we're going to choose a different hospital once we pick this individual up. What I do know as far as right now goes, I think we have, was this an injured farmer? What was the mission we just chose? Or was it golf? Was it a golfer? I think it was a golfer. So we're going to go with a critically injured golfer in the middle of the night down here in Chicago. Search and rescue mission for an injured golfer. And this flight is going to be around 8.7 nautical miles from downtown Chicago. And we are in an H-145. I mean, don't get me wrong. It doesn't look bad, but I can guarantee you the city of Chicago does not look that neon. There's no buildings that have green lights in the windows from the first floor to the top floor. You know what I mean? The lighting, even though it looks okay, it looks fake. That's not the way the city of Chicago is lit. Not even a little bit. It's not that neon. It's one of the big things that I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing improvements on in 2024 is just how well the lighting is in these areas. I mean, even though I think I have a third-party add-on to give you more detail to the Chicago area in 2024, the photogrammetry is expected to be better in 2024 than it is in 2020. So I'm hoping without any additional add-ons, we're going to be able to get more detail, better lighting, better atmospherics in these high-density cities. Again, with this oscillation, you're just getting into that overspeed. I'm at that 120 kilometers per hour mark, and that's kind of a lot for the H-145. I mean, it's possible, but yeah, I tend to get a lot of oscillation and try to keep it between around the 90 to 100K, and it tends to fly a lot more responsibly. So we're going to head on out to our airport. Yeah, probably not where we're going right now. We're going to go to the accident scene. And again, I believe this is a golf recovery. One thing I think that is worth noting is that you're seeing that I'm not going into the autopilot menu of this aircraft, which, you know, is available on this pop-out. I could, if I wanted to, you know, do an autopilot mode and do alt-hold, cruise height mode, heading, or, you know, even a hover mode is available. I can do indicated airspeed and Alt-A, which is an alternative altitude, vertical speed up and down. I can do navigational. I can couple it to a flight plan module down here where I can program flights just like any other airline. This aircraft is highly capable of flying in full autopilot. However, I really enjoy flying this aircraft by hand. It's a lot of fun to fly. Very responsive. And even with those cyclic and rudder assists off. I feel that this in 2020 has a pretty realistic flight model for an H-145. I'm obviously not a licensed certified pilot, but I have held the controls of a Huey back in the day, one time. So I do have helicopter experience as far as real world flight goes, just once in my lifetime. But I've also been a remote controlled pilot. I've been an RC pilot for the majority of my life, and I'm a drone pilot in my spare time. I have made some money with drones over the years. I have a really good idea of what flight consists of and how weather affects it. I think at this point what I'm going to need to do to find my victims is to turn on a little bit of a high intensity searchlight here, because I'm coming up on them. There we go. I think I can see their flare right there. However, let's see what kind of a landing area we've got, if any. I might need to hoist in this situation. I do see a little bit of a landing area, actually, just to the right of that water. Right? Yeah. I think if I bring this down nice and gentle right here, I'm even going to leave the searchlight on as I come in, just so I don't take my hands off the controls more than I need to. Unless it gets a little too bright to look at, I'm going to go ahead and leave that on. I'm going to turn the landing light on at the same time, but just to get an idea of how far away I am from those golf carts, I'm going to leave that landing light and searchlight on simultaneously. And then once I feel comfortable in that area, I'm going to turn that searchlight off because it gets extremely bright. And I'm going to rely specifically on my landing lights and instruments to bring myself down. See, I always float a little bit towards the end here, but that ground effect, a little too close to the water. I'm going to recover, come up a little bit, and get a little more inland before I put this down. Maybe right about here. I got a little wind. There's some wind in the area, and it's a tailwind at this point. I came into this landing area quite the wrong way, but I am down. I'm down successfully, and I'm bringing those engines down to less than idle. Let's turn that landing light off at the same time and see if we can see what's going on out here. Can't even see him. Up there he is. He's coming out of the back of the helicopter now. I just don't like the way they appear and disappear. And it's the same animation no matter what your mission set is. If you land, this guy's going to get out and push a gurney across whatever terrain is up against him. And sometimes he's underground. Sometimes the animation is just that bad, but yeah. And like I said, we're going to choose a different hospital this time. I don't know what we're going to choose. Let's see where we're at. Back up from this a little bit right here. I see now we've got a hospital pretty close that I know is a pretty decent hospital. This one right here, this is the Ascension Resurrection. I believe what I want to do though is go to Alexian Brothers. No, you know what? I don't want to go there. Let's go to Northwest Community Hospital. It's a little bit further away. Oh, we're closing our display. Let's close this call out down. This one right over here in Arlington Heights should be Northwest Community Hospital. That is where we are being dispatched with this particular patient, who again is in a golf course in the middle of the dark. We've got our art tech coming back. Janky animations. He just appears, disappears, stands still. That gurney pushes itself into the back of the aircraft. It's just, I don't know. I'm really looking forward to some updates with the animations in 2024. Don't get me wrong. The act of landing anywhere on the planet and picking someone up and doing the rescue mission back to a real life hospital is a lot of fun, but I think we need to get these animations of the rescues a little bit more accurate. Again, we chose our Northwest Community Hospital. For a critical patient. I wonder why this golfer is in critical condition right now. Maybe because he's playing golf in the middle of the night. That could be. Either way, our landing light alone is going to get us out. We're going to kind of leave that searchlight out of the mix because it does get a little bright. I think we've got enough altitude to start heading toward our destination, and I don't know any of the specifics of procedures for these HEMS pilots to be taking. I just know that it's a matter of life or death, and they need to get there quick, so I am up and out. So I think what might be interesting right now is if we went ahead and changed this flight from a night flight into a daytime flight, but with the same weather conditions. Right? That way we have a little bit of a comparison here as we fly over something like O'Hare, one of the largest airports in the world. And again, this is the third party mod that I've had installed. I can't talk all of a sudden. A third party mod. I mean, it doesn't look bad. I am getting a little stuttering, but I believe that's actually coming off of the latency. It's coming off the latency as far as internet connection goes, as it buffers these areas in. It's not the graphics card that's doing that. My FPS is still at 30 consistent. GPU is pushing a little more, 57% right now. It's actually dealing with more of the graphics of the airport and caching those as I even just fly by it. But that consistent 30 FPS is still there. It's not bad. I'm going to overspeed this thing here any minute. I can feel it coming. The oscillations are just not far behind. I'm already way over 120. Coming back down to 120 as far as airspeed goes. But it is just an interesting place to fly in because of how dense the population is in this area. I think that the types of missions that we would see in an area like this in 2024 would be kind of limited. Not a lot of mountain rescues, even though, I can do them with this version of Hype Performance Group's Action Pack, where it's just going to put up a little campsite pretty much anywhere and call that a mountain rescue. But it's quite different from what a mountain rescue really is. But it's an option that I'm considering as far as where to conduct HEMS missions in 2024, just because, it's my hometown. Chicago's a beautiful city. I do live near a helipad, so, it's something that exists in the area. I have even filmed the Coast Guard doing rescue missions on Lake Shore Drive. It happens. It's real. It's not real frequent or common. But it exists. I just, for me personally, what I want to see in the flight sim going forward is a dynamic topography. I want to see a variety of mission sets, whether it's mountain rescues, or road accidents. I want all of those to be in an environment that look dynamic. I think right now what I'm leaning towards is a little spot out in the middle of the West Indian Ocean called Reunion Island. I don't know if anyone has seen this island yet. I'm sure a lot of you have flown around this island, but it is a volcanic island at best. A lot of great topography. 3 hospitals are already being generated within 2020, and the action pack that High Performance Group provides, but only a couple of them are like actual helipads. One of them not so much. But the area is so beautiful. It's a volcanic island. There are little craters all over the place. The terrain is dynamic, to say the least. I think that's where I'm going to wind up, but my second choice is actually Southern California. My third choice is this Chicago area where we're flying right now, just because it's the hometown. I actually grew up not too far away from the hospital where we're landing at right now. So, that's the only reason I kind of chose the Chicagoland area to do HEMS missions in, because it's home. But I want to be able to see more than all of this flat ground in front of me when I'm landing at a hospital. Is it great? Of course it is. But could it be better? You're damn right. There is something to be said about the airport FMEE on Reunion Island in the West Indian Ocean. It is a beautiful location. We'll actually take you there in the next video before we go to the USRCS location, which is another really good one, only because it has some really cool things to land on. Again, it is a third-party add-on heliport, and it comes with some really cool little pads that, they're more like trailers that you can land on. It's a lot of fun to do. So I'm curious to see how those translate from 2020 into 2024 as well. Those little trailers are a lot of fun. It's like precision landing. There's just something about the terrain and that Reunion Island that I think is going to draw me towards it. But the deciding factor is the fidelity of the hospitals and their helipads. I know that the variety of missions will be in place already because Microsoft and Asobo have said that millions of these missions are going to be generated weekly and they're non-repetitive. So, I mean, how do you go wrong with that? They're even taking it as far as saying if it's a winter season, there are winter HEMS missions. So it's going to be based on seasons. And since that island has higher elevations, lower elevations, and isn't necessarily at the equator, I'm curious to see what the island is going to look like. Alright, so I took off from downtown Chicago this time, but what I think I'm going to do to end this mission set in this location is actually fly over to the Roselle Airport. You can kind of see it there off of that pop out. But yeah, again, we're just going to get a straight up, nice and gentle departure from that hospital. Another mission accomplished. There's just so many things wrong with this sim as far as where trees are being generated and how flat everything looks. Now, don't get me wrong. I already know that I don't have these settings set to ultra across the board, but even still, man, from this altitude, I'm flying a helicopter. Feels good. It looks good. Even in 2020. I'm okay with it. I did go with the aviation edition of 2024 because, I mean, why not just go for all of the aircraft? Just because you see me flying a HEMS mission here in the H-145 doesn't mean that this is the only thing I do in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. I do enjoy getting out there on those, fixed wings. Give me a fighter jet any day. I love the Warbirds. There are so many great airplanes and just different experiences that you can have in the simulator that are truly enjoyable. I'm excited to see what the ground looks like. The fact that we're going to be able to get out of the helicopter or aircraft, bush plane, anywhere on the planet and just go for a hike. Calling it the digital twin is probably the best description I think I've ever heard of a simulator, because that's what they're trying to create, is a digital twin of Earth that we can explore and learn about the craft and skill set of flight, whether it is in rotocraft or fixed wing aircraft. This is all about learning our planet, exploring it in a most detailed way as possible. I am so excited for 2024. It's barely something I can contain. Just days away. I have been pre-ordered now for well over, I think, a month and a half, maybe a little bit more than that. Not to brag or anything like that, but I'm just saying I'm that excited about the innovation. When they said that they had 4 times the resolution 4,000 times, not 4,000 times the resolution on the planet's surface. I was immediately hooked on that statistic alone. And then they show you the wireframe mesh of before and after, and it's a head scratcher. How is that even possible? So here we are at 06 Charlie, Schaumburg Airport, Schaumburg Municipal. Several different ways to put it. 06 Charlie is where I am landing right now. And you're going to notice I'm not calling any air traffic control or anything like that, but you can see that I am flying in a real world weather. Maybe not real world time, but actual weather. We do have that windsock kicking up a little bit right there. And I'm just going to pull this up to the fuel pump. Now, would I like to be able to call my air traffic control in real time? Of course. Do I honestly care, though? Not really. I haven't seen a single airplane come within a distance to us that would make a difference anyway, this entire flight. But that is my traffic settings on purpose, because I am just here to enjoy myself. Flying around in a helicopter, saving people's lives. Nice and steady, right? And try to bring that down and get into a spot where we can refuel. Not like I need it, but we are about to go into the reserve tanks. Oh, that ground effect just kicked in pretty hard right there. I saved it though. There we go. We landed close enough to the fuel box to be able to trigger the weight and balance pop out. I'm at 21% now. Let's go ahead and just shut that down. We're going to shut our engines down to idle. And we are going to kill our fuel, as well as the pitot heat. And once we get out of this engine shutdown, we're going to choose a different airport. I got a ground crew that has his hands up in the air, waving them around like he just don't care. I mean, what are they doing out there? All right, let's shut this thing down. We got it going. Okay, we've got our fuel off. We're going to turn our exterior lights off right now, and we are going to shut LAVCS down and kill the engines. This is going to be one of the things that I want to track the most. The time it takes in between flights. So I'm going to say 3, 2, 1, click, and then we're going to see just how long it takes to go from one flight to another. Bang, 3, 2, 1, and we're out. Okay, so let's see where we're at. I'm at 9:35 right now, and I'm going to go to main menu. That was a not a whopping 31 minutes-ish worth of flight. Not bad. Either way, still, watch how long this takes. It's still just coming down from a flight. Not even back to the main menu yet. There's a minute. It's excessive. And again, I'm running this on an NVMe drive, right? So this is a very fast read-write drive, but it still takes an excessive amount of time for it to go from one to the other. So let's see. One of the other spots that I was just talking about that is a lot of fun to fly at is just on the west coast of the United States. Okay, so we're over here in the like Los Angeles, LAX version, right? Okay, so you see this US RCS rotorcraft support. This is again third-party add-on material. However, a lot of fun to go to. What we're going to do is actually start a mission right about here at the Santa Monica Municipal. We'll start that as, wait a minute. You can see that I have ramp 27 parking checked as departure, but this is going to say that my departure is airborne at 148 feet. But let's see what actually happens when I load that in. Why would it say that I'm airborne when I've selected a specific departure point that is not airborne? I can't wait for 2024. Just yawn. How long does it take, though? Really, look at how long these load times are. Finally. Okay, and we're in. However, the aircraft still isn't done loading. All of a sudden, the feet pop in. The screens aren't going to come on right now because I am in a cold and dark state. But I immediately come in. It's kind of hard to see right now, but I'm already at 29, 30 FPS. GPU is at 43. CPU is at like 21, 9, 17, fluctuating greatly. But still at the lower double digits, 10, 11, 13, something like that. Not horrible. So let's come in and let's do a pre-flight startup here on our H-145, and we're going to do this the real way this time. We're going to go to the overhead panel and take our battery master switch and do that to the reset until it pops back. And we'll watch our monitors down below. Everything seems to be up and running nice and smoothly, so we're going to come over to our standby battery and our AVIO masters, turn those on. We're going to initiate the LAVCS, turn on the co-pilot and pilot pitot tubes. Then what we're going to do is start up the lights. Everything but landing lights are going to come on, and we're going to do a primer pump for 2. We're firing up 2 right there. As we spool that up, we're going to bring these monitors over into our preferred layout. We're going to change up some weight and balances here as we go forward. But let's turn some of these autopilot mechanisms into their correct configuration as that engine spools up. Let's come in and see what our weight looks like. Our payload's going to be 0 because we don't have any patients on board just yet. But let's put the crew into a full crew setup here, and that's going to be, I would say, at around 860 pounds between all of us. Yeah, we're going to drop around 1,140 pounds of fuel on board. These are a little too bright for my liking, so let's turn the brightness down on some of these displays. Get this to be a little easier to look at. There we go. All right, we'll pop this bad boy out. Do some maintenance on the aircraft. And then we're going to set up the equipment. Now, here's another thing that I want to point out for 2024. are we going to be able to save a default layout? So for this aircraft, I have several different options. I can put a nose cone on it. I can install the WSPS systems, wire safety protection systems. I can take the floats off. I can put those all in place. Can I save this setting so I don't have to do this every time? That's what I want to know. I know we can save per aircraft button mapping, but can I do a pre-recorded aircraft setup? So I got the bear paws on there, you know what I mean? I want all of this to look the same every single time I load this aircraft in. And right now it's not. I have to go through that exact same setup process every single time I do this. Right? Kind of annoying. So right now we've only got our engine 2 spooled up. Let's take the fuel pump on there. Let's get one started. Let's bring that up into an idle position. Turn both of these main fuel pumps on, take the primer pumps off, and we should be able to spool those up nicely into a flight ready statistic quickly. Let's double check our settings here. We have all of the battery standby and masters on. Pitos are set. LAVCS is on. Fuel pumps are set to on. All lights. We have strobe. We have position and anti-collision lights on. Landing lights are now on. There we go. Let's go ahead and start up a mission here of a HEMS mountain rescue. Again, we're starting off in Southern California. Okay? Let's go 10 to 25 kilometers out. It gives us a mission 3.5. Is that 3.5 or 5.5? It's 3.3 nautical miles away. We're going to accept that dispatch and hit it. Santa Monica Air Traffic Control. This is SAR Heli 0675 requesting takeoff. Thank you very much. Takeoff request approved. We're direct out to our patient. We're going to get a little translational lift and just start to head out. Because time is of the essence in the world of search and rescue. They say don't rush. I'm in a simulator. However, look how much time I can save. I know. Impatience. It's what this generation thrives on. Not really sure where the music selection came from, but I will certainly say left field. Next. See, we are getting within a mile of our destination already. I can see the tents, and it does look like we have plenty of room to land. Again, I am coming at this in a very unorthodox method. I'm curious how much regulation there's going to be while trying to do this in the career mode of 2024. Is there going to be a specific approach method that I need to take to each accident scene? Like right now, I'm obviously evaluating whether or not I want to land or if I would prefer to hoist someone down. Even though there is plenty of room to hoist or land. I haven't done a hoist yet in the stream, so what I'm going to do is a hoist. And you can see it here on my fold-out iPad. It says switch to hoist. And I'm going to try to get this to be a hovering platform that I can kind of baby into position here. I'm dealing with a little bit of wind. It is a tailwind. I should probably come in at a different orientation. And before I drop the hoist, I'm going to take a look out of the window here. Now I'm ridiculously close to these survivors here to be hoisting like this, but let's see what it looks like outside of the aircraft. All right, so we're gonna come into a hover, and we're going to choose switch to hoisting. Now watch. Okay, this little hoisting arm comes out, the door opens up, he comes down, there's no pilot. Wow, I can't control this and do all of this at the same time. Okay, I suck at this. But watch what happens. When I zoom in closer to the aircraft, all of a sudden my flight mech is just going to appear at the door. But I have to get closer. There he is. See? Why is that? Are we going to correct that in 2024? Now let's do this. So I have this helicopter in a hoist configuration, but I'm going to lay it down on the ground nice and gentle right here. Okay, so I am throttle back. I'm throttle back at this point, and I'm on the ground. I'll even idle back one time. You should see the prop slow down. I can still see my flight mech. There's very little motion. There's not a lot of action going on. But however, now bang, it just picks them up. Hoist retracts, door closes, I'm in. Now it wants me to choose, and like, it's so janky. How are they going to fix that in 2024? So what we're going to do now is that we've seen that. Let's see what happens if we take this patient over to the UCLA Medical Center, Mattel Children's Hospital. Accept the destination. Close that out. Let's bring our DMAP right there to 1.6 nautical miles, and we can see that it is slightly behind us. Okay. We'll spool that rotor up. There we go. We're starting to get our RPMs back. Straight up, nice and gentle. We'll come back a little bit. There we go. And he's going to be over here to our left. We'll follow that magenta line. Still maintaining 27, 28. Right, there's a little bit of a hit of the frames per second right there. I went all the way down to 26 as far as I saw. Maybe it was only 27, but I would go as low as 26 frames per second. But still, you're talking about more than what is generated in film. Film is 24 frames per second. I'm okay with that. Starting to get that speed way up there. Almost 130. I'd say we're at 130. I'll dial that back before we start the oscillation again. But you can see in the distance we've got this topography difference, right? Where we have a congested suburban and even metropolitan area as well as a mountainous area. So this offers a lot of variety when it comes to the types of search and rescue missions that you could be doing. And of course, we're not far away from the ocean as well, so we could be doing some boat rescues, things like that as well in the same spot. Whereas, you know, in Chicago, yeah, you might find a few boat rescues on Lake Michigan, but not like the ocean. I like the variety of this location because it has mountainous terrain, suburban areas, it has metropolitan areas, it has some great heliports as far as hospitals go. I mean, this first one we're landing at here, again, is one that was modified by a third-party vendor. But as you'll see, it's a pretty good model. It has 2 helipads. I'm coming into it with a headwind already, so I am shooting for the second pad. But, yeah, I mean, look at the building structure, and as I come into this, it starts to generate a little bit at a time, but it's not horrible. There are windsocks. And I'm shooting for the second helipad. I don't think this would be acceptable in the real world as far as an approach to a building with a patient on board. However, I haven't crashed yet. So, I mean, everyone's still alive. That's what matters, right? And if you've flown helicopters in this simulator before, you know it's not easy with all of the assists off. There we go, and we're down. Not too bad, not too bad. I don't mind it. I don't hate it. I don't hate it. It's not horrible. You know what I mean? It's not bad. It appears as I have a dispatch message. There we go. I've got the audio turned down on some of the radio communications that happen in Sim because, frankly, I don't need it. But either way, let's do one more. Let's take another HEMS mission. Let's do a... I think we do the fuel. So here's my options, right? Airport, hospital, patient transfer, airplane crash, emergency rescue, rescue, fuel station fire, hospital patient transfer, rescue, nearby farmyard accident, and nearby golf accident, nearby mountain, or nearby road accident. And I'm going for fuel fire. Let's see what the fire looks like. Let's compare the fire. So let's go to something close just so we can get it done over with quickly. 1 to 3 miles away. Accept the dispatch blindly. 1.5 miles away. Let's lift off. Nice and straight. Spin this bad boy around. Oh, we're going to wind up going into the building. We'll come around the other way. There we go. Now I should see smoke in the distance. Now, even though I have the flares off in Sim, I should still be able to see the smoke of this fire. There it is. It's happening pretty quick. Just there it is, okay? It's going to be on the other side of this building right there. We should see some ambulance parked at the scene. And we'll just have to choose where we land. It does give us the option to switch to hoisting. But considering this is on a main strip right here, all right, it's just off the right side of this road that we're over right now. I might actually be able to land in the road. But the wind is blowing away from us. It's a tailwind right now. Let's see if we can't put right behind that ambulance. I think it'll work. In the street, right by the ambulance. Not bad. Not bad. I think I have enough clearance left and right. I'm pretty well in the middle of the road, so I should be clear left and right. Harsh landing. Plenty of room all the way around. Horrible looking fire. Bring it, 2024. You need to bring it. Should be just about done wrapping that patient up, spooling that engine up. And just as we do, we get that puff of smoke and we'll avoid smoking out our flight mech and patient this time around. But let's choose a hospital. Where are we going? Now, this is USRCS, so let's go to somewhere different. What do you say? UCLA? Are we going back to the same spot? I think we are. Let's get those engines off idle and ready for flight. As we have our flight mech coming back around, we're going to get the cabin secure right about there. And we'll locate a nearby hospital, which is again going to be UCLA. It's a fun place to fly into. It's not far away. Let's see how we do. It's coming directly behind us almost. Right over the fire. Probably not the smartest thing to do. But we're on our way. Again, still 28 FPS. I'm over that 24 frames per second per cinema frame rates. Settling in, 27 FPS, 28. Now, one thing that I haven't done this whole time is changed the weight in the aircraft. Right? I've just picked up a patient. I should technically have to go into this payload value and add my passenger's weight in. But it doesn't require me to do it. And I'm actually curious to see what will happen. Because it matters, you know, as far as how much fuel on board you have and flight time remaining, top speeds. There's several things that change based on the weight of the aircraft. Again, trying to get that nose win as we come into UCLA. I think we will do maybe one more rescue in this area and try out a different hospital. And then we're going to land back up at our home base, USRCS, third-party add-on, but one of my favorites because it has the trailers for the helicopters to land on, which is rare in the simulator for 2020. Sloppy. I'm so sloppy. It's very sloppy. Still airborne though, so I mean I haven't tapped anything out just yet. But sloppy. Let's bring it down. Can we bring it down already? I'm just stuck. There we go. Wow, not close to the center of that pad whatsoever. Not even close. Okay, but here's something else that really bothers me about this, right? This patient transfer is obviously going to be happening back here into the building. So he gets out of the aircraft, he's going to go around to the back doors, stop, open them up without touching them. And regardless of where the hospital is, the flight mech and patient will always take this same exact path over and over and over and over again. They're going to come off the right side of the aircraft on about like an 8-degree angle and just walk forward until all of a sudden he gets stopped by some random wall, or he drops off the planet. One of the two. Sometimes if you're too far into the pad, he'll actually wind up dropping to the next level before offloading the patient, which is just a disappearing patient at this point. But yeah, I can't wait to see what 2024 looks like compared. Okay, so we're going to back this up. Let's actually find the secondary hospital before we take off. Let's submit that report and make sure that that mission is counted. And I think this one right here, the Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, is where we're going to want to do a hospital patient transfer. Okay, so what should happen? That's the hospital I should be going to perform this transfer. Let's see what actually happens. Now, if I back out of this, bang. Okay, it looks like it actually worked this time. See, in 2020, this is a little bit of a buggy situation where it doesn't always recognize what hospital you want to do the patient transfer from, and it will just randomly pick one on its own. That could be like 20, 30, 40 miles away, whatever it may be, but this time it just happened to work, so you're lucky. Or I should say I'm lucky. It worked. But we're going to take this patient almost cross country. We're going to go on a little flight with this guy because this is about terrain, right? I mean, I have the great scenery of these cityscapes. This is great. Don't get me wrong. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I mean, however, what does this look like in 2024? What will my settings need to look like in 2024 to keep me at this average frame rate? See, now, as heavily populated as an area that I'm in, I'm all the way down to 26 frames per second, right? It's taking a significant hit. But it's such a great area of the country just because of its diverse topography, high density population, mountains, ocean. Potentially a lot of work for a helicopter emergency medical services pilot. We have all of these greenish brown buildings and then one bright building just sticking out. Like, hey, we only cared about this building. The rest of them don't matter. Is this going to change? Because, I mean, come on. How weird is it that you get one building that is so high def around everything else that's just less than photogrammetry. I'm not a fan. Okay? I like the fact that we're landing on buildings. We have that topography going on around us, and those options for different missions are available. But the stark difference between this helipad and the number 12 just off my nose are incredibly different. There we go. Again, not necessarily a great landing. I think what I should actually do is bring this thing up again. And let's just put it on one skid and spin it around. So what happens is when my mech gets out, he doesn't fall off the edge of the building. And here's some free advertising for Macy's. Is this still going to go on? Are we still going to see the Macy's? How much free advertising will be seen in 2024? Okay, so let's test this again. See how far away this cityscape is? Up in the upper left-hand corner? Daytime. I can see it. It's not silhouetted. But now let's turn this to nighttime. Those buildings have lights. Why didn't Chicago show up like that? Is it because of the third-party generated graphics that it's taking longer for it to buffer? And we should just rely more on what the base simulator provides for us? I think it's something to look out for. Because at this distance in Chicago, those buildings were still in silhouette. A very, very interesting observation that I think we need to keep track of. Let's go back to daylight, because it's just better to fly in. Let's get over it. There we go. Now, let's go for a ride. And I think what we need to do maybe this one right about here. Let's go to some Ventura County. 44.9 nautical miles away. This is a flight. Who's ready? Again, we're seeing the trees in front of us randomly just morph into different things as we fly over them. Will this improve in 2024? There is just so much of the topography in front of me, like appearing, disappearing, and regenerating. It's distracting. I mean, the location is phenomenal, right? The difference in terrain is a lot of fun to fly in. It doesn't look horrible, even in 2020, right? I mean, look, we got bridges. Cliffs. It's going to be very, very, very interesting to fly some of these same areas. And compare 2020 to 2024. Look, I mean, that building is round, but it has a lot of sides to it. You know what I mean? Still, 28 frames per second. I'm not shooting for 60. I don't know why everyone is so hell-bent on it. I mean, I get it, but at the same time, you can sit in the movie theater and watch 24 frames per second and call it the greatest movie of the year. How important is 60 frames per second in a video game? Movies are 24. I just don't understand the need. Smooth. Any of my playback here seems glitchy to anyone, please feel free to comment below. Do whatever you need to do. Let me know what you think. Give me your feedback. You know, you can see my frame rates in the upper right hand corner there consistently throughout the video have never even come close to 60. But as far as like a viewer's standpoint, let me know what you think about the clarity and motion blur and things along those lines that go along with frame rates. the different topographies in these areas is just, let's see, there was a glitch, right? All of a sudden, just bang. Like, but that was an internet hit. FPS dropped the whole 9 yards, but that was an internet hit. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if soon, all of a sudden, I get an error message on screen that says my internet connection has been lost. Online services unavailable, sort of a thing. And that will happen for a short amount of time, and then without any interaction or correction from me, this will automatically just reconnect within 20-30 seconds max. But I'm kind of anticipating that happening here pretty soon. It's almost like a buffer reaches a max or something like that, and this thing automatically, see, right back up 28-30 oscillation. A little turbulence maybe. I mean, we are flying over some interesting pieces of terrain. And again, I'll point this out. I do not have any autopilots on or anything like that. I'm hand flying this aircraft the whole time. I can't wait to see what this looks like in 2024, though. Right? You've got this little town over here with these curved roads off to my right. I have all of the car traffic turned off in sim right now because it saves even more on frame rates, and I don't need it. It's more of just the experience of flying. And honestly, come on, man. How far off from reality are we really talking here? It's a simulation of the world. That's crazy. Well, almost about halfway there, I think. The atmospherics just look so off. You know, that harsh edge of the clouds. At every layer except like the top, where there's still a little bit wispy, but even those edges, they're pretty sharp. Still hand flying this, just from outside for the cinematic of it. And since I'm mentioning cinematic again, I'm still pushing 30 frames per second, that entire orbit around that aircraft. More frames per second than you would see in a movie on a 2080 Ti. AMD Ryzen Threadripper 2950X. I believe let's see here, if we come up with the computer specs, once again, I think that internet speed is going to have more to do with this new simulator than anything, right? Let's be honest. Do you honestly need, underscored, italicized, bold-faced question mark at the end of it, do you need 60 frames per second? I mean, this is looking pretty good from my point of view. It's not even a recording played back and then stream. Oh, what, is this a dam? Looks like a dam. Very cool. Sorry, where am I going? I have totally lost track of my destination and need to get back into the simulator here real quick and see that the destination is way off to my right. Sidetracked by more beautiful things. How we doing? A little better? Maybe keep that heading for a minute. So the destination appears to be sort of coastline oriented. Alright, I think I'm actually still pretty far away from this thing. If, according to this map, 13 miles still separate me and the hospital. So, as we descend over these mountains, I'm going to try to pick up a little bit more speed. Now, luckily, our patient doesn't have any head trauma, so our altitude doesn't really matter in this instance. Sometimes a mission will require a pilot to stay under a certain altitude to maintain proper pressurization. It can be life-threatening if a patient is brought over a certain altitude with a condition like such. But today, we're in a sim. Key here is to see the difference between 2020 and 2024. Let me just remind you of that. So for a lot of these streams, the premise has been set. I'm not going to speak much. I think the proof is in the pudding. What you see is what you get. So let's kind of just rely more on what the game looks like than what I have to say about it. Again, just more glitches. We saw all of our displays just wind up in a gray screen. Helicopter rotors started to stop spinning. It was a graphics delay within a flight, even though the flight still progressed. The graphics within the aircraft disconnected. Mind you, this is an aircraft that is in my community folder on my hard drive. This is not being streamed to the computer, and it's coming off of an NVMe drive. So we're still experiencing that kind of issue in 2020. Starting to get a little bit closer to our destination here. Not too close, but this is supposed to be farmland. And according to reports, we should see crops here. Vineyards or whatever it may be.
Solo, moving on. All the tears are gone. Let's celebrate. Raise a glass. Freedom inside. Break a party. Rock the night. No more pain. It's alright. Party, party. Yeah, break a party.
What kind of farmland will this be? That's my question. It's a dynamic environment. HEMS mission qualified.
जो हो गया कल की नई कहानी बना खुशियों के दिन फिर आएंगे जो ना तेरा उसे भूल जा highs and lows separate ways embrace the freedom lighter days dance freely forget the past raise a glass love didn't last party party yeah break up party party whoa party party yeah break up party party whoa party party yeah break up party party
Getting a little bit closer. I'd say we're at about 3.5 miles. Nautical miles. Another heliport. We'll see what happens 2024. Getting a little bit closer on that. little over a mile. There's a hospital around here somewhere. It's called Ventura. Almost directly ahead. Looks like a construction site. So I've kind of overshot it again, and I've got the tailwind with me, so I'm going to come around the other side. But again, it just gives a really nice view of just how blocky some of these buildings look, what the photogrammetry looks like, and what they've depicted as heliports in 2020 versus 2024. Right there. Come on, not too shabby. I'll take it. Let's see what the US RCS looks like in 2024 versus 2020. Let's do this. So this is, again, somewhere just that I'm going to fly. It's just outside of Fillmore, California. And I'm only going to try to do this off of the map, I think. I know where it is. I'm going to close out the old iPad. And we're going to go land at what I would consider a home base, which would be Fillmore, USRCS. Not St. Marie Reunion. No, I said USRCS. Is that going to play that every time? Is it the wrong graphic loaded for home base? It sure is. Well, there is a graphical mistake happening as we speak. How about that, ladies and gentlemen? That is not our base of operations. Actually, we want to be headed towards Fillmore. See it there on the map, just basically ahead of us down this valley. And again, I want to point out, upper right-hand corner says we're still pushing 30 frames per second. GPU isn't even at 50%. CPU is barely being utilized at all. And that, my friends, is a 32-thread, 16-core Ryzen Threadripper 2950X with a 2080 Ti. And we are streaming this at over 30 frames per second. I should say at 30 frames per second consistently, which is over that of which you would see in a movie. So, I don't know what more you need. Let's go to Fillmore. just what kind of agriculture will consume this area in the next sim. That's what I want to know. The topography is fantastic. It's a contender for HEMS Missions 2024, let me tell you. Alright, I think that's it off in the distance. I'm really honestly not too sure, but I believe so. I know it is in that general vicinity. You can see kind of like a long cigar-shaped building off my nose. I believe that's my airfield. USRCS. It does appear to be so. My favorite thing about this particular airfield for helicopters specifically, because you're not landing a fixed wing aircraft here. But one of my favorite things about this is these trailers. There's 2 of them at least. Maybe 3 that are laid out throughout the airfield that you can land on. And it's challenging to say the least. So let's come in and go towards the helipad at the center. And then we're going to branch off to the one that's to our forward and right at about the 1 o'clock. Got a significant amount of fuel reserve left, but the overall majority of my tanks have been spent. I definitely feel some, turbulence as I come down, but apparently this wake turbulence in 2024 is going to be significantly more realistic, so I'm very curious to see if these sort of trailer landings exist in 2024. It's not bad. I mean, I'm a little far back on it, but I kind of like to be over the axle, I suppose. Yeah, let's face it. I'm a little far back on the trailer. A little, just a little. It's not bad. It's not bad. Come on. Either way, US RCS is one of my favorite spots because of that. Southern California, SAR missions. Bring on 2024. That's all I got to say. I think we'll see you then. In the next one. Thanks for joining us.